senseless aims, and to remember that our goal is God. His memory is hidden in our minds, obscured by our pointless little goals, which offer nothing and do not exist, Shall we continue to allow God's grace to shine in unawareness, while the toys and trinkets of the world are sought instead? God is our only goal, our only love. God is our only goal, our only love. We have no aim but to remember Him. We have no aim but to remember Him. God is our goal, our only love. God is our only goal. God is our only goal, our only love. We have no aim but to remember Him. Let me remember my goal is God. Let me remember that my goal is God. Our goal is but to follow in the way that leads to you. Our goal is but to follow in the way that leads to you. We have no goal but this. We have no goal but this. What could we want but to remember you? What could we seek but our identity? What could we seek but our identity? Let me remember that my goal is God. Let me remember that my goal is God. Let me remember that my goal is God. Well, thank you so much for joining me today in studying A Course in Miracles. We're reading from the Foundation for Inner Peace version here on Lesson 258, Saturday, September 14th of 2024, if you're listening to it in this year. Let's read through the lesson once again, which we're to do every morning. Take a look. I try to do it just as soon as I can before I go looking at my phone or anything else. I try to take the time to, while I'm still kind of in that sleepy state, and read through my lesson. And I've already read it the night before, so it's already fresh in my mind usually. I try to see if I can remember what the lesson is before I even read it, what at least the title is. Let me remember that my goal is God. And then I take 15 minutes morning and evening minimum. You take whatever feels good, whatever makes you happy. If it's 5 minutes, if it's 30 minutes, you just make sure you stay in the silence and let that trickle in. Be at the feet of Jesus. Be at let Professor God teach you as you sit quietly and listen. And then do that again in the evening before you go to bed. And then during the day, take those hourly remembrances and thanksgiving. Find something to give God thanks for. Ask Him for guidance. But tell yourself the lesson and take a moment of pause and just reflect on it. Let me remember that my goal is God. All that is needful is to train our minds to overlook all little senseless aims and to remember that our goal is God. His memory is hidden in our minds, obscured but by our pointless little goals which offer nothing and do not exist. Shall we continue to allow God's grace to shine in unawareness, while the toys and trinkets of the world are sought instead? God is our only goal, our only love. We have no aim but to remember Him. And the prayer says, our goal is but to follow in the way that leads to you. We have no goal but this. What could we want but to remember you? What could we seek but our identity? And then our associated reading with today's lesson, which we're supposed to read, I'd read at least once a day and just and you can listen right now, or you can take another reading where you read a little slower and even more contemplative. What is sin? Sin is insanity. It is the means by which the mind is driven mad and seeks to let illusions take the place of truth. And being mad, it sees illusions where the truth should be and where it really is. Sin gave the body eyes, for what is there the sinless would behold? What need have they of sights or sounds or touch? What would they hear or reach to grasp? What would they sense at all? To sense is not to know, and truth can be but filled with knowledge and with nothing else. The body is the instrument the mind made in its efforts to deceive itself. Its purpose is to strive. Yet can the goal of striving change, and now the body serves a different aim for striving. What it seeks for now is chosen by the aim the mind has taken as replacement for the goal of self-deception. Truth can be its aim as well as lies. The senses then will seek instead for witnesses to what is true. Sin is the home of all illusions, which but stand for things imagined, issuing from thoughts that are untrue. They are the, in quotes, proof that what has no reality is real. Sin, in quotes, proves God's Son is evil, timelessness must have an end, eternal life must die. And God Himself has lost the Son He loves with but corruption to complete Himself, His will forever overcome by death, love slain by hate, and peace to be no more. A madman's dreams are frightening, and sin appears indeed to terrify. And yet what sin perceives is but a childish game. The Son of God may play He has become a body, prey to evil and to guilt, with but a little life that ends in death. But all the while His Father shines on Him, and loves Him with an everlasting love, which His pretenses cannot change at all. And that word pretense, an attempt to make something that is not the case appear true. An attempt to make something that is not the case appear true. Be sure to take time, if there's a word that you don't really quite get the full meaning, look it up. Look at it in several different dictionaries. Kind of easy to do with search engines now. A madman's dreams are frightening, and sin appears indeed to terrify, and yet what sin perceives is but a childish game. The Son of God may play He has become a body, prey to evil and to guilt, with but a little life that ends in death. But all the while His Father shines on Him, and loves Him with an everlasting love, which His pretenses cannot change at all. How long, O Son of God, will you maintain the game of sin? Shall we not put away these sharp-edged children's toys? How soon will you be ready to come home? Perhaps today? There is no sin. Creation is unchanged. Would you still hold return to heaven back? How long, O Holy Son of God? How long? Let me remember my goal is God. Okay, let's go take a look in our text reading for today. And we're ready for, in chapter 28, The Undoing of Fear, section 3, The Agreement to Join. And before we read it, let's see what's going on around the world today on September the 14th. Eat a Hoagie Day, Farmers Consumers Awareness Day. And I'd encourage you to be part of a CSA. Either be the farmer producing for your CSA or support community-supported agriculture. You know, help your farmer. Let him know that you're going to be there for him through the year, and that you want to buy from him. He'll put together a box for you, and you can pick it up once a week, twice a week, whatever you guys work out. Community-supported agriculture. You know, straight from the farm to the table. And you can help in the farm too. You know, go out there and give a little bit of your time to help your farmer. German Language Day. And the reason I say that is because, that's something that would help me. And and the way that with economics, the way they are with price fixing and price incentives and government help, it makes it really difficult for the farmer that's growing good food to produce it at a price that's really fair. So keep that in mind when you're buying your food. Pay a little more for it. Make sure your farmer's in good health and has good equipment and not just struggling to get by. Go the second mile with your farmer. It benefits you. German Language Day. And of course, we'll use our word for peace out of German today, which is, remember what it is? Frieden. Okay, Gobstopper Day. That's a Willy Wonka candy. International Drive Your Studebaker Day. Live Creative Day. Coloring Day. Cream-filled Donut Day. Wouldn't recommend eating those. Day of Remembrance of Aborted Children. Remember, what has life has immortality. They'll all come back. No one loses anything. Iguana Awareness Day. And the genus is iguana and the species is iguana. Iguana. It's a tropical little reptile that lives Central and South America, and it lives up in the canopy of the trees where it prefers to live. Lace Making Day. Quiet Day in UK. I have a quiet day on December the 6th, the day that my mother of my children, my first wife, crossed over. And you always have that be a quiet day, a little more contemplative. Sober Day. If you have trouble with alcohol, every day ought to be a sober day. Prairie Day. Support Latino Business Day. Exaltation of the Holy Cross. That is more of an Eastern Greek Orthodox holiday. It started back in 335 A.D. with the site of Christ's tomb, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And then the Roman Church adopted it in the 700s. Anyway, the Exaltation of the Holy Cross Day. And World First Aid Day. Wow, World First Aid. Be the first to help people whenever there's a need. And then out of edible landscaping, we've got another Filbert, and it's the Winkler Native American Filbert. Winkler is a hard-to-find self-fertile bush. It produces larger nuts and is more productive than most native seedlings. Originally from Iowa, introduced in 1918, the bush, about 6 foot tall and wide, is not susceptible to blight, zones 4 through 7. And it's a Corylus americana. Okay, now let's go take a look at the agreement to join in chapter 28, section 3. And keep along with you today. Let me remember, my goal is God. The agreement to join. What waits in perfect certainty beyond salvation is not our concern, for you have already started to allow your first uncertain steps to be directed up the ladder separation led you down. The miracle alone is your concern at present. Here is where we must begin, and having started, will the way be made serene and simple in the rising up to waking and the ending of the dream. When you accept a miracle, you do not add your dream of fear to one that is already being dreamed. Without support, the dream will fade away without effects, for it is your support that strengthens it. Paragraph 2. No mind is sick until another mind agrees that they are separate, and thus it is their joint decision to be sick, and thus it is their joint decision to be sick. If you withhold agreement and accept the part you play in making sickness real, the other mind cannot project its guilt without your aid in letting it perceive itself as separate and apart from you. Thus is the body not perceived as sick by both your minds from separate points of view. Uniting with a brother's mind prevents the cause of sickness and perceived effects. Healing is the effect of minds that join, as sickness comes from minds that separate. Paragraph 3. The miracle does nothing just because the minds are joined and cannot separate. Yet in the dreaming has this been reversed, and separate minds are seen as bodies, which are separated and which cannot join. Do not allow your brother to be sick, for if he is, have you abandoned him to his own dream by sharing it with him? He has not seen the cause of sickness where it is, and you have overlooked the gap between you, where the sickness has been bred. Thus are you joined in sickness, to preserve the little gap unhealed, where sickness is kept carefully protected, cherished, and upheld by firm belief, lest God should come to bridge the little gap that leads to him. Fight not his coming with illusions, for it is his coming that you want above all things that seem to glisten in the dream. Well, that sure speaks of our lesson today. Let me remember that my goal is God. Again on that last sentence, fight not his coming with illusions, for it is his coming that you want above all things that seem to glisten in the dream. Paragraph 4. The end of dreaming is the end of fear, and love was never in the world of dreams. The gap is little, yet it holds the seeds of pestilence and every form of ill, because it is a wish to keep apart and not to join, and thus it seems to give a cause to sickness which is not its cause. The purpose of the gap is all the cause that sickness has, for it was made to keep you separated in a body which you see as if it were the cause of pain. Paragraph 5. The cause of pain is separation, not the body, which is only its effect. Yet separation is but empty space, enclosing nothing, doing nothing, and as unsubstantial as the empty place between the ripples that a ship has made in passing by, and covered just as fast as water rushes in to close the gap, and as the waves in joining cover it. Where is the gap between the waves when they have joined, and covered up the space which seemed to keep them separate for a little while? Where are the grounds for sickness when the minds have joined to close the little gap between them, where the seeds of sickness seemed to grow? Paragraph 6. God builds the bridge, but only in the space left clean and vacant by the miracle. The seeds of sickness are the shame of guilt he cannot bridge, for he cannot destroy the alien will that he created not. Only you can let go of your alien will that God created not. You got to let go of your dream, make a clean space so that God can bridge the gap. Let its effects be gone, and clutch them not with eager hands to keep them for yourself. The miracle will brush them all aside and thus make room for him who wills to come and bridge his son's returning to himself. Paragraph 7. Count then the silver miracles and golden dreams of happiness as all the treasures you would keep within the storehouse of the world. Let me remember that my goal is God. Keep that in mind when I'm reading this sentence. Count then the silver miracles and golden dreams of happiness as all the treasure you would keep within the storehouse of the world. The door is open, not to thieves, but to your starving brothers, who mistook for gold the shining of a pebble, and who stored a heap of snow that shone like silver. They have nothing left behind the open door. What is the world except a little gap, perceived to tear eternity apart, and break it into days and months and years? And what are you who live within the world except a picture of the Son of God in broken pieces, each concealed within a separate and uncertain bit of clay? 8. Be not afraid, my child, but let your world be gently lit by miracles. And where the little gap was seen to stand between you and your brother, join him there. And so sickness will now be seen without a cause. The dream of healing in forgiveness lies, and gently shows you that you never sinned. Again on that sentence, the dream of healing in forgiveness lies, and gently shows you that you never sinned. The miracle would have no proof of guilt to bring you witness to what never was, and in your storehouse it will make a place of welcome for your Father and yourself. The door is open, that all those may come who would no longer starve and would enjoy the feast of plenty set before them there. The door is open, that all those may come who would no longer starve and would enjoy the feast of plenty set before them there. And they will meet with your invited guests. The miracle has asked to come to you. And the word guests is capitalized. See God in your brothers and sisters. And they will meet with your invited guests. The miracle has asked to come to you. And the last paragraph to finish this section, 9. This is a feast unlike indeed to those the dreaming of the world has shown. For here the more that anyone receives, the more is left for all the rest to share. The guests have brought unlimited supply with them, and no one is deprived or can deprive. Here is a feast the Father lays before His Son, and shares it equally with Him. And in their sharing there can be no gap in which abundance falters and grows thin. Here can the lean years enter not, for time waits not upon this feast, which has no end. For love has set its table in the space that seemed to keep your guests apart from you. And the word guests again was capitalized. For love has set its table in the space that seemed to keep your guests apart from you. So basically, you want to use love to bridge the gap, and don't use guilt to keep yourself separate from your brother. And one of the things that I do, I usually keep a card in my back pocket, one of my business cards, and I try to write on the back of it every morning the lesson for the day, because when you need the lesson the most, I tend to forget it, because your consciousness is in a place where you're upset, so it's not in a place where you can to grab it, and you need it. So use your pen, write down the lesson, just the title of it. Let me remember that my goal is God. That way you can use it throughout the day in times of temptation, or whenever you feel like you're a little, maybe not on your, at your top, that you're optimistic, powerful, peaceful, happy. And certainly every hour, remember it. And if you can't remember it, I try to remember it without pulling my card out. But if I can't remember it, after a minute or two, I go ahead and pull it out and say, oh yeah, let me remember that my goal is God. And let's see, is there anything else I wanted to tell you today? Let me remember that my goal is God. Thank you all again for joining me in studying this book. I hope it helps you as much as it's helped me. I find that I've had to go through it several times and still go through it and get a lot out of it each time. I mean, it's like every time I get it, it's like, oh my, I never saw that. Wow, I wasn't prepared for it, wasn't ready for it. Let me remember that my goal is God. Let me remember that my goal is God. Let me remember that my goal is God. All that is needful is to train our minds to overlook all little senseless aims, and to remember that our goal is God, that our goal is God. His memory is hidden in our minds obscured, but by our pointless little goals, which offer nothing and do not exist, and do not exist. Shall we continue to allow God's grace to shine in unawareness, while the toys and trinkets comforts of the world are sought instead. God is our only goal, our only love. God is our only goal, our only love, our only love. We have no aim but to remember Him, but to remember Him. Let me remember that my goal is God. Let me remember that my goal is God. Our goal is but to follow in the way that leads to you. We have no goal but this. We have no goal but this. What could we want but to remember you? What could we want but to remember you? What could we want but to remember you? But to remember you. What could we seek but our identity? What could we seek but our identity? But our identity. Let me remember that my goal is God. 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 Let me remember that my goal is God.